Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of BiblioTech on Air, BiblioTech's official podcast. I'm Lewis.
And I'm Israel.
And today we are going to be talking about the book Between Two Fires by Christopher Buehlman, and that is available on cloudLibrary as an audiobook.
Yes. So if you're a Bexar County resident and you would like to check this book out, it's super popular. The hardcover just came back out this early March. Before we get into the questions, I do want to read a synopsis. Okay,
go for it.
The year is 1348. Thomas, a disgraced knight, has found a young girl alone in a dead Norman village, an orphan of the Black Death, and an almost unnerving picture of innocence. She tells Thomas that plague is only part of a larger cataclysm, that the fallen angels under Lucifer are rising in a second war on heaven, and that the world of men has fallen behind the lines of conflict. Is it delirium or is it faith? She believes she has seen the angels of God. She believes the righteous dead speak to her in dreams. And now she has convinced the faithless Thomas to shepherd her across a depraved landscape to Avignon. There, she tells Thomas she will fulfill her mission to confront the evil that has devastated the earth and to restore to this betrayed, murderous knight the nobility and hope of salvation he long abandoned. As hell unleashes its wrath and as the true nature of the girl is revealed, Thomas will find himself on a battleground of angels, demons, and saints, and the risen dead, in the midst of a desperate struggle for nothing less than the soul of a man.
Whew.
Yes.
I love that synopsis. It really gets into just kind of the epic proportions of this book, where it, how big the scale is. And just talking about it generally, what did you think of it? Because I know that this was a book that you had recommended for a very long time. And obviously, for the podcast's sake, I got on board finally. And I was, honestly, I was blown away.
I just figured, this is already the third book, by the way, that I've recommended to Louis, in which they just absolutely loved.
It's like he has good taste or something.
But no, so actually, I've read it before. I read it a couple of years ago, and I fell in love with it. I just loved the imagery. It was just epic. Like the demons and the angels fighting, all of the creatures within this world. It was just right up my alley. And this is the second time I've read it, right? For me to read a book a second time.
Yeah?
Yeah, especially like a lengthy book like this. I believe the audiobook was 14 hours. It says something.
Yeah.
But yeah, I loved it. I do. Ruby, one of our other co-hosts of BiblioTech on Air, she mentioned that she envisioned Thomas and Delphine as the Hound and Arya from Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Which I definitely see. I didn't envision someone for Pierre Matou, but I definitely saw the Hound and Arya for Delphine and Thomas.
Yeah, I though I'm not really familiar with Game of Thrones, I have seen the analysis videos in the wake of season 8 because it's one of those things where it's like, it's not my drama, but I'll watch it from afar and make fun of it. But I've seen the Hound and I've seen Arya, and I think I imagined something very similar to the Hound when I was imagining Thomas. Just kind of like this very tall, wide, just very stoic guy,
Ruggish.
Scars everywhere. Yeah, exactly. And then having that juxtapose, one of my favorite tropes of all time is here's this big intimidating guy and here's his little daughter, you know, and just having Delphine be such a small, very frail looking sort of figure in his life, and having him kind of warm up to her and having her be like, oh, you swear too much, and him being like, yeah, whatever. Oh God. Makes it, we'll get into it, but it makes the payoff at the end also when they reunite that much more sweet, because you could see Thomas has a really good arc over the course of the book.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And before we get ahead of ourselves, first and foremost, this book is set in medieval Europe around the time of the Black Death. So as you said, in the 1300s, stuff like that. But the book isn't really written in a way that's kind of ye old English. It keeps itself very modern in its writing. How did you like this? Do you think that it could have done with a little bit more ancientness to its language? Or do you think you liked how it was?
So I'm a Christian Catholic, and so I've read the Bible a fair few times, not all the way through.
Bragging.
But no. So even if I think it was very easy to read. Even in the parts where it read like from an older text, like the Bible, it was easy for me to understand. One of my favorite parts of the book was when it would state, "And the Lord made no answer."
Yeah.
Right? That's about as complicated as it got in terms of the type of text, of it being an old text.
Yeah.
And I just feel like if it was older text, I would have read it. I think it would have been more difficult for me to read, though. That's the thing. Even having read the Bible and things like that, scripture and stuff like that, it would have been more difficult for me to read. It might have been a little bit more difficult to enter into the book and to follow along with the characters.
Yeah.
But no, I liked it. I think it did a good job.
Yeah, I agree. I don't feel like it needed like an extra, like I think it sets itself so well in its setting and within like the kind of like the misery of that kind of setting of that time period, you know?
Yeah.
Not that it's all misery, but it sets itself very realistically, I think, in like in the realism of like what it would be like to live there, that I feel like the language doesn't necessarily need to follow that. Like I personally really like how it does kind of feel like the more like modern translations of the Bible. I love Dante's Inferno. I would call that a bit of a harder read.
Yes,
Of
definitely.
in terms of its verse, in terms of like how many times I would have to like go back and reread something to like parse it. But it's worth it. You know, if there are a few sentences that you find in Between Two Fires that you're like, wait a minute, what did that mean? It's rewarding because like there were like quite a few innuendos in the book just because Thomas is a bit of like a thuggish guy, you know, like he is not the most like he's mentally sinful by like
Mentally sinful.
you know what I mean? At the very least.
Yeah.
In terms of like, you know, the things he thinks about, things he gets up to. And you know, there are quite a few times that like I think in a very tasteful way, but also in kind of a funny way, you have to reread a sentence and be like, oh, he's talking about like there are a few words that I have to look up where I'm like, oh, okay, that's just another slang for, you know.
And it's interesting because it takes place in France.
Yeah.
Right? And I wonder if Christopher Buehlman knows French, why he chose. I mean, it was probably the Black Plague was probably just very prominent in France during that time, so maybe that's why. But a French translation, I would not be able to read it, but that might be kind of cool just to purchase the book and have for my bookshelf.
Yeah, just like whenever we read The Unworthy, and we're like, I bet this goes hard in Spanish.
Yes.
Just because it's not the original language it's written in, I think that maybe it's not the exact same thing, but I do think a French translation of this would probably be, well, certainly easier for French people to read. I know that whenever I was reading this out loud to my partner, like I love Count of Monte Cristo. It's the same thing. They know French. I do not. So I will completely stumble my way through the pronunciations. But that being said, it's not as confounding as some of the Count of Monte Cristo stuff is. Anyway, man, favorite book of all time, but
I've yet to read
locations
it.
I gotta remember.
I've yet to read it. It's just a fat book.
It is.
It's like huge. It's
couldn't
like
recommend it more. I will tell you exactly what chapters to skip.
Very good.
But anyway, getting back to Between Two Fires, we have our three main characters, Thomas and Delphine, and then we also have Père Matthew, who is he's not an excommunicate. He is a
disgraced, maybe.
He is a disgraced priest who tags along with them. He's become a drunkard. He was disgraced because he was homosexual, and of course, in the 1300s, that was not looked upon very fondly.
It wasn't?
In most cases.
Right.
In the case of Père Matthew's brother, who is at a higher station in the clergy, though, he
just
is
doing whatever they want, man.
He's kind of allowed to do whatever he wants. It's kind of like laissez-faire, like he gets to do that. Yeah. And he's doing it for power's sake, and he's doing it to gain favor and stuff like that. But in terms of Père Matthew, he's in a more small town. He gets caught with this other gentleman, and he is disgraced. He turns to drinking a lot. But he ends up joining in on Thomas and Delphine's mission. And I think that since they all kind of have like a different dynamic at play, how do you feel that they like balance each other out as the story goes along?
I think Christopher Buehlman did a great job of having every aspect of the different characters, and I also enjoyed that we got the backstories. To Pierre Mathieu, and then we got the backstory to Thomas, because he's also a disgraced knight. He's fighting for his country, France, and they lose. and his land, his wife, is given to another individual.
Which that's some real Count of Monte Cristo stuff right there.
Yeah.
It's the whole like, actually, you came back and it turns out we all decided you were fighting for the wrong guy, so get out of here.
Yeah, but in terms of their dynamic and their relationships, I think it does a great job of really. The book does a great job of showing their flaws and showing how each of them keeps each other in a checks and balances type of way.
Yeah.
Especially with Delphine. So, for example, later on in the book, Thomas is about to get his revenge, right, on a group of individuals who are at a brothel. And he hears Pierre Mathieu's voice be like, no, you need to speak to my brother. He hears Delphine's voice. No, don't do it. Yeah. No, don't do it. And he stops himself, right?
Yeah.
And then also, too, in one aspect for Pierre Mathieu, he's kind of sharing his life and to what happened before and what kind of led him to be disgraced. And Delphine, I don't remember exactly, but he's sharing with Thomas, like, hey, man, like, so this is what happened. And Thomas is like, well, I mean, a lot of priests have, mistresses.
Like mistresses, yeah. Because it's implied that when Père Mathieu was telling him that story, we heard the actual story of the fact that it was like this young gentleman that he had been fooling around with. But it's implied by the time like the story comes to a close and it cuts back to Père Mathieu and Thomas talking, that Père Mathieu had been subbing in, oh, but I slept with a woman in that scenario. And then Thomas is like, well, that doesn't make sense. You said that plenty of people have mistresses. Like what made people disgrace you? And Père Mathieu has to be like, listen, Thomas, I'm going to level with you. You wouldn't knowingly travel with a sodomite, would you? And Thomas is like, yeah, no, of course I wouldn't. He's like,
no way.
So for your purposes, you need to tell me right now that, oh, that's ridiculous. I can't believe they like caught you for sleeping with a woman. That you didn't deserve to be disgraced for that. And we're just going to agree that I was a woman. And Thomas is like, yep, okay, yeah, that's ridiculous. Cool backstory, man. And then Delphine, who's like waiting in the wings, who's heard all of this, is like, by the way, just letting you know, if it was a man, I wouldn't think any less of you, because she's like this angelic sort of being.
Yeah. She's like, I'll accept you still.
And that's so sweet because
I love you.
Yeah, and like that feels really realistic to me as well, where it's not like hey, Thomas, who has no reason to not be homophobic given how he was raised probably, and like the era that he's in, is like, I have you could tell he has such a care for Père Mathieu at this point that he is willing to go along with that lie just to be like, hey, I'm not going against my creed. I'm not talking anymore about you with this.
Yeah.
But
don't ask, don't tell.
Exactly. And it just feels really realistic. And then for Delphine to come in as a being who's like 7 angels in a trench coat, basically coming in and being like, by the way, and even not even just that, like she's not just a conduit for all of these holy beings, but she's also just a little girl who is, probably a lot more accepting, hasn't had that kind of like philosophy hardened into her yet. She's just generally more accepting. And especially she also has care for Père Mathieu.
From the mouth of babes.
Yeah.
Do you think that, so in terms of Delphine, was it her or is it the divine speaking through her? Not for that specific instance only, but just entirely.
I think it's said in the book that she gets this kind of like expression on her face, like this kind of like sleepy expression when she's about to be like more of a vessel than herself. So I do definitely believe there are times where it's her and there are times where it's the divine, but I feel like that sort of thing kind of mixes within her throughout the entire book, especially because it's not always like explicitly said whether or not she has that expression on her face. But I think that she walks the fine line between like she's a vessel and she knows she's being guided versus she is being spoken through. I think that she has a bit of both until at the end she has split.
She literally splits open and angels start coming out of her.
Yeah, at the very because she dies.
Yeah, she
And
dies.
we'll get to it, but like she does die at the end, and
She fulfills her mission. Yeah.
yeah, it's basically her mission was to be a vessel to bring all of the angels over to Avignon. Like she was basically a taxi. But yeah, she was there to do goodwill, and then by the time that her mortal body was no longer usable, the angels came out, and then following Thomas, who also dies, being saved from hell
Yeah.
by her or by God with her face or like whatever like is going to be most comforting him to him. By the time that Thomas is back up on his feet, he makes his way with like another band of guys back to where everything all started, and there's Delphine, just a little girl, no longer a vessel, and she's still very much herself in a lot of ways, but just kind of allowed a chance at normal life.
Yeah. Do you think that Thomas and Pierre Mathieu were also chosen like Delphine was chosen? Or do you think they just happened to... Was it just happenstance?
I think it could have been anyone, but I also know that kind of within the... I hate to call it mythology, the theology of like Christianity and Catholicism, as far as I'm aware, it feels like certain people are chosen for certain things.
Yeah.
Is there like
Elected even.
I know that there's like different denominations and stuff like that, but is there like a predetermination sort of thing where it's like this person is going to be like, I know there's a different denomination that really believes in the predetermination. I can't remember which one, but like where it's like this person is born and this is going to be their path in life because God has chosen it, and this is like they don't stray from that path.
So it's interesting because within Between Two Fires, I just want to give a little exposition.
Yeah.
Right. But within Between Two Fires, Thomas, Pierre Mathieu, and even Delphine, they're all tempted in various ways.
Right.
In different aspects, they are tempted. Right. Pierre Mathieu, he is tempted to kill Delphine. Right. He is like a demon who is appearing as a saint. Actually, tells him, "Do you know who you travel with?"
Yeah.
He's like, "Yeah, I travel with Thomas and Delphine. They're both great people, basically, right?" And he's like, "Nah, they're not. She is Salome to King Herod. That's what Delphine is, right?" And just knowing a little bit of the Bible and things like that, it's just really more impactful. But they are also given the choice to deny. Right. They are given the choice to say, "No, I do not want to take part of this anymore." Right. I do not want to help this little girl reach Avignon. Even Delphine too. Maybe hers might be a little more complicated because she's literally...
She's 7 angels in a trench coat.
Yeah, literally, she's like literally like Jesus or something.
Yeah.
You know?
Girl Jesus.
But she still was tempted, to kind of run away and things like that. But yeah, I think some individuals are chosen, whereas or elected and given the opportunity to say no or to continue saying yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah. I feel like it in some ways could have been other characters, but it ultimately was this band of characters.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's honestly, I feel that kind of way about the predetermination thing. It's like, yeah, it could have been preordained from the very beginning.
Yeah.
But who cares? This is where we are right now. You
Yeah.
know? Not to get crazy religious, but like it's just that this book brings it up.
Yeah. Exactly.
So kind of speaking more about the different themes and topics that this book tackles, of course, we have talked about it tackles religion, but also things like redemption, machismo, classism, exile. How do you feel that Christopher Buehlman, the author, tackles these sort of things within the text?
I think he does a great job. And to be honest, I think it's because of the structure of Christianity, specifically Catholicism. We see the abuse of power, right? With the bishops, the cardinals, the Pope himself, right?
Yeah. Though he's taken over by a demon, he got body snatched. So,
Yes, but that is not an excuse because even before, he was doing whatever the heck he wanted. He was
with
having
his
relations with
niece-in-law,
his niece. And then also too, we see that Pierre Mathieu's brother Robert, is also, as you mentioned, exchanging favors, almost for sleeping with other cardinals and things like that, right. And so I think in a structure like that, I think all those things are gonna be tackled are going to be present. And I think Christopher Buehlman does a great job of exploring those things, but not putting them in our face.
Yeah, exactly. It just feels realistic to the setting, realistic to like the sort of hierarchy that the characters find themselves against or in.
Yeah.
And speaking of, I think that this book tackles classism in a really like realistic way as well, because the Black Death, of course, wiped out 1/3 or 2/3. Gosh, I can never remember. Like a huge portion of Europe's population. And I really love the way that this book tackles like these are the different towns, like kind of stances on like depending on what stage of the plague they're in. Like, do they let people in? Do they have like, are they keeping a really close eye? Are they kind of more like, oh yeah, we don't care, it already passed through, you know? And I really love the way that this book tackles the way that the Black Plague was kind of a great equalizer in a way, because like it was something that affected the rich and the poor alike. One of my favorite parts of the book, like in terms of just kind of like instant catharsis, was like there is in Père Matthew's town before he goes on the journey with Thomas and Delphine. There is kind of like the fortress of the higher ups, whose titles I'm forgetting, but like the people who have kind of been like, you know, like hidden away in their little fortress,
doing whatever they want,
and they're like,
living comfortably.
Yeah, the poor people don't come in here. Like they've been bad to them before this point, but like now they're like hiding away completely, not answering to any demands. They're not helping the people fight like the eels that are in the river, which we will get to the eels.
Yes.
A hand, a freaking hand.
Yeah, it's amazing.
But anyway, they're like antagonistic towards them, but then kind of in the epilogue, as they're kind of like leaving that town of that kind of like section of the book, they're like, and then one infected person got into that fortress, and in a matter of days, all these people who thought they were too high and mighty, too good for the poorer classes, got wiped out in a second by the plague. And that's one of those like little catharsis moments where it's like, yeah, that's messed up, but also like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter your class. The Black Plague was coming for you, man.
Yeah, exactly. Another one of the things too, because in these questions it mentions machismo, and it's kind of funny how Thomas is like, yeah, priests, you know, they break their vows, they get mistresses, you know, but you're gay.
Yeah,
I draw the line there.
It's so like I feel like with that kind of like hierarchy of like, oh, like these are the important men, the guys who are in charge, stuff like that. Like, I feel like a lot gets, like, put into that in terms of, like, oh, these are the important men who are, like, figuring things out. That's part of why I like the fact that Delphine is part of this book, you know? Because it does kind of feel like, she's the only girl. But for the setting, it feels realistic, you know, in kind of like not only is she seen as, like, pure enough to be, like, a holy vessel, but also, you know...
It's a great juxtaposition to all of these men in power. It's also crazy because it's like Thomas is literally fighting demons.
Yeah.
He fought that giant snake eel creature.
Yeah.
But still, he's like, yeah, I can't overlook that, man. Let's pretend you never said that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. No, he's seen horrors beyond his comprehension, but he's like, so you were with another... Yeah, I'm going to pretend I didn't hear that. I like this backstory with my ears off. Thank you.
Yeah.
But yeah, I loved the whenever they get to Paris and Père Matthew and Thomas don't know Delphine's name for a long time. They just call her girl.
Yeah.
You know? And by the time they come across like this couple who like take them in, this woman who has just lost her daughter like takes Delphine and starts like comforting
She's
her.
tender to her.
And Delphine is like crying. And she's like, what's your name? And she's like, Delphine. And then both Père Matthew and Thomas look at each other like, oh my God, we never asked.
Right.
Yeah. And like, I think that like Delphine has kind of an inner monologue moment where she's like, this world has never been a world for girls or for women, but especially now the plague has completely hardened everybody to the point that like the moment that she's able to have like a moment of reprieve with another woman, she feels just like so much more comforted and feels more at home. And then to have that ripped away from her is so tragic, you know?
Yeah. And it's interesting because there's so many juxtapositions within this book, but we are given the tender image of the wife and Delphine, right?
Yeah.
And then you just bam, freaking demon Virgin Mary statue coming in and be like,
let's get
you know?
into it. Let's get into it because I want to talk about the horrors really quick with you. So this book has, in my opinion, some of the coolest imagery that I've
for sure.
ever like I could have possibly conceived in terms of like the way that it writes the demons that are kind of like overtaking the earth as like kind of hell to because they can't quite break the barrier of heaven and fight on their turf. So what they do is they take God's favorite little creatures and like
they body snatch them.
Yeah, body snatch them, bring them back from the dead, make horrible mockeries out of their bodies and out of their souls. And it's just all of the monsters in this book could easily make an incredible D&D campaign.
I know. A bestiary of a book just like of the like an artist, like,
don't they have that
collaborating with Christopher Buehlman, right? For all the monsters, though, all the demons, like all the characters within this world. Oh man, dude, that'd be so amazing because they're so cool. They're so cool.
So I know your favorite because this is the one that you told me that kind of hooked me into the idea of this book. Tell me about your favorite.
So there's various ones, but the first one, when I first read it for the first time I was reading this book, was the statue of the Virgin Mary that knocks. And in the book, it says it's carrying a baby. Yeah, because
instead of like cradling the baby, she's holding it up by the ankle.
Yeah, she's holding it by the ankle. And when I first read that, man, it creeped me out.
Yeah.
It really creeped me out because I was just like envisioning it, right? Like, it's really cool. That's one of my favorite moments. Another one of my favorite moments is when I forgot where I think they're about to reach Avignon. But it's where we see the seraphim and the two demons fighting.
Yes.
And they're like, the book describes them as giants and right. And they're just fighting back and forth, and it's just amazing. It's just amazing.
Yeah, and Thomas is kind of like looking on at this, and he kind of has a moment of clarity where he's like, whatever I'm imagining them doing is just my brain trying to put it into something that I can comprehend. They are fighting, but every move that I'm seeing, every movement, everything that looks like it makes sense to me is just my brain trying to make sense of it. And that comes back later where the battle between the demons and the angels at Avignon at the very climax of the book, people later on are like, I know there was a fight. I know it was like angels and demons, but like I don't remember a thing of it. It was mostly an earthquake as far as I know, even despite the fact that it was like a demon tearing the walls down in agony. I love stuff like that. I love kind of like eldritch stuff like that because it's like what can a human brain comprehend of beings that are so far beyond our comprehension?
You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of within the Bible when Moses, he sees the burning bush, and like he sees a burning bush, and I believe God says to him, or maybe it was another individual within the Bible, he's like, if I were to show you my true self, you would not be able to comprehend and understand. You would like literally go crazy. And so it kind of reminds me of what Thomas is saying. He's like, my mind is kind of putting it all together, what's happening. But were there any creatures or demons that stood out to you?
So this is not my absolute favorite one. I'll get to that, but let's talk about the flesh dam. Hey everybody, can we please talk about the flesh dam for a second? Hey guys, if you don't mind, I'm going to talk about that one time they were floating down the river and there was a bunch of headless bodies packed up into a flesh dam. And all of the faces of like the heads ripped off of all of those individuals turn into these horrible jellyfish-like creatures with their faces and with like the eternal damned soul of like agony. And like when they were on the vessel like down the river, Thomas had like dispatched the captain because the captain was going to kill them. And then the captain comes back and he has like a vengeance, like so he can recognize. That's the part that's scariest to me, is the fact that not only are there people's souls kind of trapped within those creatures, but they can recognize and have the memories of like what they were before. So he sees that vessel that he was thrown off of, and he like can exact revenge upon people who betrayed him. He betrayed them first, but and then
Right?
he goes after the only crew member of his that like stayed with them, and drowns him, feeds him to the mouth, and like has his body like spit upon, like
Yeah.
go flush
And I just
down.
liked when they were like, and then you just see his head floating
Yes,
away.
it's so creepy.
This is also where Pierre Mathieu dies.
This is also where Per Matthew dies because he is guarding Delphine with his body and he's getting stung mercilessly. It's, oh God, that scene destroys me. But in terms of my favorite creature, weirdly enough, it's the one that you don't see. Because, because I loved how tense that scene was. Delphine,
for sure.
After Per Matthew dies, Delphine is like, I am just bringing death and destruction upon these men.
I need some space.
I need to go follow this mission by myself.
Yeah.
And she goes off and starts traveling by herself. She comes across this like convent that the Black Plague has like completely ravaged all the way through. And on the inside of the convent, it's completely dark. And she goes there to sleep. And she has her little like spear that was given to her.
It was the spear that pierced Jesus Christ.
Yeah. And she has it like around her neck. And she kind of wakes up and there's just a voice in the dark that's like, hey, how you doing? Can we be friends? I'd love to be friends. And she's like, hey, I'd actually prefer leaving. And they're like, if you leave, I'm going to bite all of your fingers off. And I'm not joking. And Delphine is like terrified of this creature because the creature is like, oh, you need to give me that spear around your neck or else you're not going to like what happens next. And Delphine is terrified because she's on her own for the first time like that. But then she realizes like, wait a minute, if you're really so powerful, you could take it from me. Why can't you take it from me? Why don't you try? And the creature just starts freaking out. And of course, you have no idea what it looks like. You don't know how mighty it might be. You don't know how powerful. You don't know how weak it might be. And you think that Delphine is just like really, really confident, But she ends up like, she's like, you know what? It's about to be daytime soon. And I know that y'all don't like the light. So I'm going to run outside. I'm going to climb up a tree, which she loves doing. And why don't you come out here and take it from me? So she climbs up the tree and the creature is like in a hood and is like scrabbling at the tree. And then when she wakes up the next morning, it's a bunch of like broomsticks that were
It's
like
a
cobbled
scarecrow.
together. It feels like an old like children's tale that would like traumatize multiple children, but teach them a lesson about like strangers or something. And I liked that so much because it was so, the way it was set up was so tense.
Just in the audiobook too.
Yes.
The person who does the audiobook does a great job with the voices, especially when the dialogue goes back and forth between like Pierre Mathieu and Delphine and Thomas and Delphine. It's amazing because he does the voices and he does the voice for that creature. Another creature that I remember,
Little German boy.
little German boy. No, the body snatcher demons.
Yes.
Yeah, because we learn that the Pope is body snatched.
Yeah.
And the way that works is that like their hand or their body, like they go in through the mouth.
Yeah, and they basically like, suck the soul out.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so creepy.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's amazing. It's
I
so
love
cool.
it. I love it.
Yeah.
I love horror so much. God. And like this book genuinely unnerved me. And it's been a while since it's happened to me.
Yeah.
Like I remember multiple times having to kind of like put it down. I'm like, oh my God. And there's that recurring motif of like they come across so many different like creatures and they all have kind of like this weird pale hand as a part of them. And it's like a freaking hand.
Christopher Buehlman in the hands,
Yeah, I think it's scary. There's
is
something very
definitely scary.
human about it. But
Yeah.
there's also like something can be so inhuman.
Yeah, because the snake at first is like like this creature that just looks crazy, and then you just see a hand on the back of its tail or something like
On
that.
the eels.
Yeah, on the eel. Yeah.
Oh, it's so creepy. Anyway, love your work. But let's kind of wrap it up.
Yeah.
So at the end of the book, just to give a little synopsis of what happens, Delphine and Thomas both die. Per Matthew has already died. Kind of trying to get the Pope, the real Pope, back in Avignon, and trying to like take down all the demons that have kind of like invaded into the clergy there, who are about to make really big decisions that will impact the future of like humanity and stuff like that, and kind of like weave demons into like the power structure. Delphine dies, splits into a bunch of angels, as you do. Thomas also dies trying to save her and save others. And then Thomas goes to hell.
Yep.
There's I'm not going to get way into it, but there's just like a demon kind of creature that greets him there and kind of like walks him through what's going to happen. He's like, hey, listen, buddy, I hate I got to do this to you, but yeah, paperwork's not lining up. Looks like I'm going to have to eat you for eternity. And then by the time that that's no longer suffering for you, then we get to move on to the next level of hell.
Yeah.
What do you think about like the ending and how like that hell is depicted? And then also whenever Thomas is brought back and he finds Delphine again and they live their life together by the time he's back to a mortal body.
I will say, the first time reading it, I completely missed that Thomas switched bodies with the Comte.
Right.
Because then at some point he switches back.
Yeah, that's right before like the big battle.
Yeah, because Thomas is like he's captured, severely beaten. Delphine goes to save him, and she's like, let's switch back to your regular body, to Thomas's body, right?
Yeah.
And then he tries saving him, as you said, and then he dies. I really enjoyed the ending, especially the second time around. It made a lot of sense. It was reminiscent of when Jesus Christ goes into hell to save Adam and the other individuals, right? So that's what it reminded me of. I did enjoy that they were given a second chance.
Yeah.
To live their lives. Thomas chooses to remember, right? And then Delphine does not remember any of it, of what happened. I just wonder why Pierre Matou wasn't given the same.
I don't know.
Maybe because maybe as a priest, it's a little bit.
Maybe it's because he didn't like quite.
Different.
Maybe it's because he didn't like quite make it to the end. Maybe maybe they were just like, sorry, this is final girls only.
Yeah, sorry, dude.
Also, sorry about the gay thing, man. I can't. God's like, I can't get past that. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But no. The book has. It's been a while. Like it's been like a week since I finished the book. The ending has really stuck with me in a way that's like disturbing because the way that it depicts hell actually made it feel hellish to me.
Damned, like his soul is damned to eternity of punishment.
And it's not even just like oh man, in theory that would really suck. It goes on for like 3 or 4 pages where it's really talking about, no, this is everything Thomas could have possibly endured. Every possible betrayal, every weakness completely like eaten at and eaten away. All of his humor eaten away. Because demons are jealous that the human race also got humor. So they break that out of him. They make him do horrible things to Delphine. They make Delphine do horrible things to him. They trick him with like, oh, here's Delphine here to save you. Just kidding. Like that line where it's like, oh, he becomes the butt of every joke he's ever told.
Yeah.
That in particular makes me think that if that's how hell works, I am in for a time. Because again, if they can't get over the gay thing, but if they have it where like every single blasphemous thing you could have possibly said, and Thomas says a lot.
Yeah.
He is now at the end of like that as an ironic punishment.
Yeah.
It breaks him. Thomas is such a strong character. He believes in so much, like in holiness by the end of his life, but then he's completely broken down into an unrecognizable shell of himself.
Yeah.
By the time that he is then approached by Delphine, God kind of taking on Delphine's form in order to comfort him and make him believe that this is real salvation, and is taken back up. And I don't believe he has any memory of hell by the time he's in his body. I think that would break him.
Yeah, I think that would drive him crazy. Yeah,
I think he's rather strong because by the time he's back in his mortal body, the big battle that he died in was like last night.
Yeah.
So he looks around for Delphine for a little bit and then doesn't find her. But then when he and his like new band of brothers go that area, he finds her and he starts to raise her as his own properly this time. He doesn't swear because he knows that she used to hate swear, like whenever he swore, and it's.
He becomes a priest. She enters the convent.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's go ahead and wrap it up. Yeah. Out of 10, what would you rate Between Two Fires by Christopher Buehlman?
I honestly, there are a couple of chapters where like by the time I'm reading it again, I might skip just because like it's a little like exposition heavy. And now that I kind of know the deal, I would probably want to skip them. That doesn't mean they're bad by any means, but sometimes, I want a more streamlined experience by the time I've gotten every word in my head. I would give it like a 9.5 at least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think after this discussion, after reading the second time, I thoroughly enjoy this book. It's one that sticks with me. It's one that I think I would reread again, honestly. I would keep recommending it. With that being said, I think I would rate it a 10. I think I would rate it a 10. Yeah, that's just like my personal like thoughts and feelings, towards it. Like, I think it was a great book. Not a perfect book, because I don't have the knowledge to know what a perfect book is. But it was a great book that I enjoyed and that I'll continue to enjoy.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, maybe they'll make a movie of it. I don't know how that. Honestly, I don't know how that'll work.
I think this would crush,
or a graphic novel or something.
That would crush as a graphic novel.
So cool.
I think this would be incredible as like a 2D animated movie.
Yeah,
like an indie kind of thing. Like, I think that this would be amazing. Maybe even like a TV series.
Yeah,
but
there is another series, The Black Tongue Thief by Christopher Buehlman, that is pretty good as well. I haven't read it, but I've heard good things about it. I do recommend. I believe we do have those on cloudLibrary as well.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. But with that being said, we're gonna go ahead and wrap up the episode. This was our discussion on Between Two Fires by Christopher Buehlman, available on cloudLibrary with your BiblioTech library card.
Bestiary coming to cloudLibrary by the time I finally drawn everything.
Yeah, that would be amazing. Yes. With that being said, if you're a Bexar County resident, you'd like to read this book, it's free to register. You can register at our website, BiblioTech.org, or visit one of our 4 locations. We love to see you here at BiblioTech West. Sign up for a library card.
Please.
But I'm Israel.
And I'm Lewis.
And we'll catch you in the next episode.
Bye.
Bye.